Welcome to Life Stories. Sometimes, fate has a funny way of changing our lives when we least expect it. Emma Carter was just a hard-working housekeeper, struggling to get by, until one unexpected moment turned her entire world upside down. A chance encounter with billionaire CEO Logan Bennett led to a journey filled with challenges, love, and self-discovery. From whispers of scandal to a romance that defied all odds, Emma's story proves that the most extraordinary love stories often begin in the most unexpected places. Subscribe to the channel to start today's story with Life Stories. I never thought my life would change inside a hotel bathroom. And yet, that's exactly what happened. It had been a brutal week, double shifts, barely any sleep, and the kind of exhaustion that makes you feel like a hollow shell of yourself. I was barely functioning, dragging my mop from one room to the next, praying for the day to end. The Madison Grand Hotel in New York was one of the most luxurious in the city. And as a housekeeper, my job was to make sure its opulence remained untouched by the chaos of the real world. That night, my last stop was the penthouse suite. The place was breathtaking, larger than my entire apartment, with marble floors, chandeliers, and a view of the city that most people would pay a fortune for. I sighed, already feeling my body shut down. But I forced myself to keep going. Just one more room. I stepped into the vast bathroom, the size of a small ballroom, and began scrubbing the tub. My arms ached, my vision blurred. Just 5 seconds, I told myself, leaning my head against my arm. 5 seconds to rest. And then, I was gone. I don't know how long I was asleep, but the next thing I remember was a voice, a deep, sharp voice that cut through my dreams like a blade. What the hell? I jolted awake, my body instinctively jerking, and in the process, I knocked over the cleaning supply bucket. A sharp clang echoed through the bathroom as bottles of detergent clattered onto the floor. My heart raced, my breath shallow. It took me a moment to register what was happening. A man stood in front of me, tall and intimidating, his dark eyes piercing with disbelief. His shirt was unbuttoned, his tie loosened, and his expression was a mixture of anger and sheer confusion. Oh God, the guest. My mouth opened, but my brain had yet to catch up. I didn't rob you. I swear. The man blinked, his frustration momentarily replaced by confusion. What? I scrambled to my feet, holding my hands up as if a police officer had caught me mid-crime. I just fell asleep. I winced. That sounded even worse. His brows furrowed, and he ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. You fell asleep? In my bathroom? I nodded furiously. I was just cleaning and, I don't know. I guess my body just shut down. He folded his arms, studying me like I was a strange puzzle. So my bathroom is a dormitory now? I winced again. It was a very quick nap. Oh sure, he said dryly. Just a little 30-minute snooze on the toilet lid. It was 5 minutes. He narrowed his eyes. Do you have a stopwatch in your brain? I was in trouble. This was it. I was about to be fired. Possibly blacklisted from every hotel in the city. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering against my skin. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of yelling at me or throwing me out, he let out a deep breath and turned on his heel, walking out of the bathroom. Panic surged through me. Wait, where are you going? He didn't answer. I hesitated before following him. Stepping into the massive suite's kitchen, he grabbed a cup from the counter and poured something into it before turning back to me. Do you drink coffee? I blinked. Huh? He held out the cup. Try it. I hesitated before taking it from him, lifting it to my nose. Immediately, I grimaced. This is terrible, I said without thinking. He raised an eyebrow. You could tell just by the smell? I hesitated. Yes. A curious glint flashed in his eyes. Explain. I shifted uncomfortably, but I had already dug this hole, so I might as well lie in it. It smells burnt, which means the beans were over-roasted. The bitterness was probably too strong, so someone tried to cover it up with sugar. But instead of balancing it, it just made it worse. The man tilted his head, studying me again. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, completely out of nowhere, he smirked. Perfect. I frowned. Perfect for what? He took the cup back from me and leaned against the counter. The hotel's coffee is awful. I've complained. But no one can fix it. If you can tell what's wrong just by the smell, maybe you can figure out what's wrong with the other dishes too. I let out a humorless laugh. Sure, because that's exactly what a housekeeper does. As of now, he said. Yes. I stared at him like he had lost his mind. I clean rooms. I reminded him. I have nothing to do with food. Well, he said, as if that was irrelevant. Now you do. I opened and closed my mouth, feeling completely lost. This had to be a joke, right? Look, I tried again. I appreciate it, but I need my job. I can't afford to be fired. His expression didn't change. Who said I'm firing you? I blinked. You're not. If I were, I would have done it already. He glanced at the coffee cup. Now come on. You've got a breakfast to taste. I had no idea how my night had spiraled into this. 1 minute, I was arguing in the penthouse bathroom. The next, I was being dragged into some ridiculous plan by a billionaire CEO. But, somehow, I wasn't fired, and maybe, just maybe, I had a chance to change my life. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of unease. Unsure if last night had been real or some bizarre exhaustion-induced dream. But when I arrived at work, still groggy from too little sleep, the reality of it hit me. Logan Bennett, yes, the Logan Bennett, billionaire CEO of the Madison Grand Hotel, was waiting for me in the hotel's restaurant. I hesitated in the doorway, gripping the cleaning cart as if it might protect me. Good morning? He barely looked up from his phone. You're late. My stomach clenched. Am I fired? Logan glanced at me, and for a moment, I swore I saw amusement in his dark eyes. No, but if you don't sit down, you might regret it. I cautiously stepped forward, still uncertain if this was some kind of elaborate setup. The restaurant was empty at this hour. The tables pristine, the air thick with the scent of fresh pastries and coffee. Logan nodded toward the table in front of him. Sit, he said simply. I sat. A moment later, a waiter appeared, placing several plates in front of me. Eggs, toast, a croissant, fresh juice. What I assumed was the hotel's breakfast selection. I frowned, looking between Logan and the food. You want me to eat? I want you to tell me what's wrong with it. I raised an eyebrow. And if there's nothing wrong with it, then I'll admit I was wrong and leave you alone. That was a tempting offer. I sighed, picked up my fork, and tried a bite of the eggs first. Immediately, my mouth twisted in discomfort. Too dry. I glanced up at Logan, who was watching me expectantly. They're overcooked, I said, pushing the plate aside. And the butter is cheap. You can taste it. His lips twitched, but he said nothing. I moved on to the toast. Bread's not fresh, I noted. Probably from yesterday. Logan tilted his head. And the juice? I took a sip, then winced. Oh, wow, this is awful. He smirked. Why? I placed the glass down, licking the bitterness off my lips. It's not just fresh orange juice. Someone mixed store-bought with it and tried to hide it. Probably thought no one would notice. Logan leaned back in his chair, satisfied. I knew it. I narrowed my eyes at him. So, what exactly is this? A test? More like a job interview. My fork froze midair. A what? You have a natural talent, he said simply. I want to see if you can fix it. I blinked at him, convinced I had misheard. You want me to fix your hotel's breakfast? You have a better idea? I shook my head, still trying to process what was happening. Logan, I'm a housekeeper, not a chef. I don't know how to cook. He shrugged. You don't have to. You just need to know when something's wrong. I swallowed, my mind spinning. This was insane. Completely insane. And yet, for some reason, I found myself saying, okay, I'll try. I wasn't sure how it happened, but within days, I had gone from scrubbing floors to sitting in the hotel's executive kitchen, watching chefs whisper about me like I was some kind of alien life form. She's a housekeeper, I heard one of them say under his breath. What does she know about food? I gritted my teeth, pretending I hadn't heard. Logan, on the other hand, didn't bother hiding his irritation. He shot a hard glance at the head chef, Anthony Russo, who had his arms crossed over his broad chest. You have a problem, Russo? Logan asked, his tone cool. The chef's jaw tightened. With all due respect, Mr. Bennett, my team is highly trained. I don't see how she can contribute. Logan gestured toward me. Then let's find out. I swallowed as every pair of eyes in the kitchen turned toward me. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay calm. I picked up a spoon and tasted a dish sitting on the counter, scrambled eggs on toasted brioche. The first bite confirmed my suspicion. They're dry, I said immediately, looking up at Anthony, and not just a little. Did you use cheap butter again? Anthony's eyes darkened, but before he could argue, Logan smirked. Go on. I picked up a piece of toast and took a bite. Bread's a day old, probably stored wrong. And the juice? I took a sip and made a face. It's a mess. Someone mixed fresh and bottled orange juice. And the sugar content is all wrong. Did you guys try to stretch out the fresh juice to save costs? A few of the chefs exchanged looks. Anthony's jaw was locked so tightly I thought it might crack. Logan turned to him, arms crossed. Well? Anthony exhaled sharply. She's right. I blinked in surprise. About everything, he admitted. The butter is low quality because our supplier raised prices. The bread was baked yesterday morning. And the juice? Well, she nailed it. Logan looked at me with something close to amusement. Not bad, Carter. I had no idea what was happening. I had just stood in a kitchen full of professional chefs and told them their food was terrible. And they had agreed with me. Anthony sighed, rubbing his temples. So, what do you suggest? I hesitated, but Logan nudged me. Speak freely, he said. I took a deep breath. Use real butter. Get fresh bread daily. And if you're going to serve juice, make it from scratch. People pay a fortune to stay in this hotel. They expect quality. Anthony stared at me for a long moment. Then, to my shock, he held out a hand. Fine, he said. Let's test your theory. I shook his hand, still unsure how I had ended up here. One thing was clear, though, I was no longer just a housekeeper. I should have known that success would come at a price. It started with whispers. At first, I ignored them. Hotel staff would glance my way in the halls, muttering under their breath when they thought I wasn't listening. I figured it was just gossip, the kind of talk that spreads when something unusual happens. After all, how often does a housekeeper get pulled into the executive world? But then the rumors grew worse. She's sleeping with him, I overheard Julia, one of the front desk clerks, say one afternoon. That's why she got promoted so fast. I froze, gripping my cleaning supplies tighter. I should have walked away. Ignored it, but something inside me snapped. If that were true, I said, turning toward her, don't you think I'd have a better job than fixing breakfast? Julia's eyes widened in shock. And for a moment, she was speechless. But it didn't stop the rumors. If anything, they got worse. By the time Logan invited me to a high-profile food event in Chicago, the gossip had escalated into something bigger. It wasn't just the hotel staff talking now. The media had picked up the story. When we arrived at the event, I could feel the stares. People whispered behind champagne glasses, casting me skeptical glances as if I had no right to be there. And then, of course, she appeared. Victoria Langston, tall, blonde, effortlessly elegant, the kind of woman who belonged in Logan's world. She approached with the confidence of someone who had never been told no a day in her life. Her eyes flicking over me like I was something she had stepped in. Logan, she purred, kissing his cheek in greeting. It's been a while. He barely reacted. Victoria, she turned her attention to me, offering a sickly sweet smile. And you must be Emma. I forced a polite nod. That's right. Victoria tilted her head. I must say, it's refreshing to see Logan taking such interest in his employees. I clenched my jaw, my nails digging into my palm. She's here because she's talented, Logan said, his voice cool. I trust her judgment. Victoria laughed lightly, shaking her head. Oh, I'm sure. The conversation ended there, but the damage was done. She had planted the seed of doubt in everyone's minds. And by the time we left the event, Logan's name, and mine, were all over the tabloids. CEO Logan Bennett involved in scandalous romance with former housekeeper. I stared at the headline, my hands shaking. They made it sound like I had seduced him for a promotion. Like everything I had worked for meant nothing. Logan didn't even hesitate. "I'll fix this," he said. The next day, he called a press conference. And in front of the entire world, he said the words that changed everything. "Emma Carter wasn't promoted because of me. She was promoted because she's damn good at what she does. For the first time in my life, someone was fighting for me. And I wasn't going to let them tear me down. I had spent most of my life fighting for a chance to prove myself. Fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be respected. And now, standing beside Logan Bennett, I realized I wasn't fighting alone anymore." After his press conference, the media storm around us didn't vanish overnight. But it shifted. The tabloids could speculate all they wanted. But Logan had made one thing clear. I wasn't just some passing fling. I belonged here. And people started to notice. The hotel's food quality improved drastically. And guest reviews raved about the changes. Anthony Russo, the head chef who once dismissed me, now consulted me before making menu adjustments. Even the hotel staff who had once whispered behind my back began treating me differently. Not just as someone who had caught Logan's attention, but as someone who had earned her place. Still, I had no idea what Logan's endgame was. That question was answered one evening when he invited me to dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking the Pacific coast in California. The setting was unreal, golden lights strung across the patio, a cool ocean breeze brushing against my skin, the sound of waves rolling in the distance. But it wasn't just the atmosphere that felt different. It was him. Logan was quiet, watching me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "You're unusually silent," I teased, setting my wine glass down. He smirked slightly, just waiting for the right moment. I raised an eyebrow. The right moment for what? Instead of answering, he stood up, reaching into his pocket, and in the next breath, he knelt down in front of me, holding a small velvet box in his hands. My heart stopped. "Emma," he said, his voice steady. "Sure. Do you remember the first time we met?" A startled laugh escaped me. "Hard to forget. I was asleep in your bathroom." Logan chuckled, shaking his head. And at that moment, I knew my life was never going to be the same. I swallowed hard, my eyes already burning with unshed tears. "You challenge me," he continued. "You make me laugh. You remind me that life is more than boardrooms and business deals. I don't want to go another day without knowing you're by my side." He opened the box, revealing a breathtaking diamond ring. "Marry me." Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could even nod. "Yes," I choked out. "Yes, of course." He slipped the ring onto my finger before pulling me into his arms, kissing me deeply as the restaurant erupted into applause. I never thought my life would turn out like this. A housekeeper, a billionaire, an impossible love story. And yet, somehow, against all odds, we had found each other. And this was only the beginning. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. A year ago, I was just a housekeeper, exhausted and invisible, fighting to make ends meet. Now, I wake up every morning next to the man who saw something in me before I even saw it in myself. Logan and I built something incredible together. Not just a relationship, but a partnership, one where my voice is heard, where my opinions matter, where I am more than just my past. We traveled, explored the culinary world, and even launched a new division within the Madison Grand Hotel, focusing on authentic, high-quality dining experiences. But nothing compared to the day we found out we were going to be parents. I still remember the shock on Logan's face when I showed him the pregnancy test. The way he froze, then broke into the biggest smile I had ever seen before lifting me into his arms. "We're having a baby," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about family, about the life we were building together, piece by piece. So, if there's anything my story proves, it's this: you never know where life will take you. Sometimes, the best things happen when you least expect them. And sometimes, falling asleep in the wrong place leads you exactly where you're meant to be. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible life stories.